Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the payoff.
Enough is enough, and it's time for a change. We're finally covering Owen Hart, the King of Hearts.
Finally, I know.
Finally. But first, Jeff, how the hell are you doing?
It's Owen Hart Day. This is exciting. We are finally getting an Owen Hart match. I am excited about this. It's bittersweet because this is the road has come to an end. This is, I think we saved the right match to do last, covering Bret and Owen today. But
so this is our final WrestleMania match of this year.
The season is, we're parking the car. We are off the road. We have destination reached. It's time to move on. Yep. And so, but we're not stopping anytime soon, but yes, this is a great match, I think, to cover as our final WrestleMania match of the 2021 season.
Well, I'm excited, man. This is going to be a lot of fun.
You always ask me. You always ask me. Let me ask you this week. Go
ahead.
Why do you want to cover this match, Tom?
Well, this was just because of the outcome and the unconventional placement of, hey, Bret's kind of the guy in the company, but he's going to be in the opening match, and it's going to be against his brother in a fantastic build, obviously, which you're going to get into, but then he's going to wrestle later in the night. And then again, the outcome of this match was just ridiculous and unexpected. And the feud would continue. I mean, it was just really odd. And I don't say odd in a bad way, but again, you have the guy that's going to be in the main event opening the show. It's a great match. You'd think it was the best match on the show, but then we get this ladder match that may have been even better. It may have been like arguably the two best matches of the year. Again, it's just a really interesting time in the business. First WrestleMania without Hulk Hogan. So you got some new guys in there. And, this match, this was kind of the first time that I think anyone really looked at being on the opening match as being an opportunity to steal the show or do something memorable. It used to be like the curtain jerker match. So that has significance. So there's just a lot of stuff that's going to be really fun for us to talk about during this match. And I say this a lot, but I'm always curious, does it stand the test of time? Does it hold up? Are we going to watch this match and go, wow, that was a awesome 12 or 15 minutes, whatever? Or is it like, it's not as good as I remember it or as people talk about? So for a lot of reasons, I'm genuinely excited to cover WrestleMania 10 and to cover this match. What about you?
I think it's almost shocking that you and I have been doing this damn near 2 years now almost, and we haven't covered an Owen Hart match. I think so. We are long overdue to cover an Owen Hart match. I know you and I watched his Dark Side of the Ring. I think he was extremely well liked by pretty much, it seems like everybody that ran into him, that he was, is definitely one of those that who knows exactly like the type of performer and kind of what would be happening, even, just a few years after he died, like kind of what he would be like if we had gotten to see that. I think that it only would have gotten better. I'm with you. And this kind of makes me wonder too, at least like kind of looking back at some of these WrestleManias, and was this WrestleMania 10, like, how many opening matches were ones that people looked at? I think that you bring up a good point here. It's one of those like, and we hear it all the time now, if you don't go last, you want to go first. And so, was this the inception of that? Like, and I don't have the answer for that in front of me, but like, I wonder, like, and Twitter, tell us, we'll put it out there. Like, is this like, was there a better opening match before this on a pay-per-view? I don't know. Like, and so It's definitely good stuff to look forward to. We got a lot to talk about. But before we get into that, though, I want to remind everyone that support for the payoff, it's brought to you by Manscaped, our new partnership with them. We've been talking about it all this month. We've been using the product this month. It's really the best in men's below the waist grooming. And so it is just that precision engineered tools for your family jewels. Like, we're giving you rhymes this week because it's absolutely worth it. And so they've been, revamping the product. They're now on the lawnmower 3.0. It comes with a perfect package. It's got all these different products as well too that they have. It's used by over 2 million men worldwide. So men, if you want it, whether you're trying to impress your woman, impress your man, whatever it is, every little bit helps. And so ladies, if you're looking for a gift for your man, like summer, just try to clean up a little bit, keep ourselves cool, this is the product to use. And so for all of our listeners, the offer we've got for you, it's absolutely worth it. We've been telling our friends all this different stuff, but 20% off, free shipping with the code payoff at manscaped.com. And so maybe you don't want to jump right into that, the trimmer and things like that and get the lawnmower. Take it from Tom and I. It's absolutely worth it. And Tom and I did not think we'd be talking about each other's balls when we started this podcast, but here we are. And you know what? We're bringing that to you guys, and this is a shoot. We're not bullshitting you guys. Anyone, it is absolutely worth it. No matter where you live, they will ship it to you. It's worth it. And they've also got other stuff. You got the crop mop. They've got the crop cleanser. They got the foot duster. They got cologne. They got it's all kinds of men's products. And even I used to go on, Amazon, used to go on all these other different websites and things like that and just order these products, just kind of, whatever I wanted, and Tom just got Tom convinced me to get the nose hair trimmer. Buy products that are made by the good companies that are putting these out there that are designed to be made for these types of things. And guys, it's all about taking care of ourselves. Absolutely. And so again, 20% off, free shipping, use that code. It's just payoff at manscaped.com. So Tom, go ahead.
Jeff, I just want to ask you, when I sent you the before and after pictures of what Manscaped did for me, what was your initial reaction?
I was a little surprised. I'm not going to lie, because I was doing a presentation at the time, but
it was the middle of my work day. I was on a conference call and I was a little surprised.
The whole room gasped, but then applauded. So good job for you. So, it's, you got to take the good with the bad. And so while it was shocking at first,
we did not, we just took each other's word for it. So no photo proof, but seriously, all kidding aside, they make great products. They're affordably priced, actually more affordably priced than I would have expected. I ordered one for a friend. I ordered, the nose and ear trimmer, the weed whacker for myself. And, on both those orders, I'm like, man, this is really cheap. And then with the 20% off and the free shipping, I think it's as affordable as anything else out there. I don't think it's more expensive, but I think it's far better. I mean, it's better engineered. It works.
You're paying for the quality. Yep.
Great battery. Yeah. So good stuff. Again, we're not.
And that's to that point.
It's just good stuff.
We haven't said it. You don't got to fuck around with batteries. That's a big deal. It's rechargeable.
Oh, I'm
just
out.
Plug it in.
My AAA battery. Well, Jeff, where do you keep your AAA batteries? I don't know. Do you have any?
No, I go to CVS and I buy them. That's where I keep them. And then I lose them.
They're like $8. It's you buy a pack of AAA batteries, you end up using one and you lose the rest, or you move and you misplace them, or whatever. So even if you think you save a few bucks on one of these devices, you spend more by the time you feed it with these damn batteries. So
yes,
anyways,
absolutely.
We've made our point clear. Great stuff, well engineered, very affordable, and use the discount code payoff to save 20%. So with that, let's get into the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
All right. So we've covered this show before, Jeff, so we're not going to do an extensive deep dive. But as a refresher, for those of you that are younger or newer to the show or have been living under a rock, WrestleMania 10, Madison Square Garden. Man, I've been very transparent. I am a Ultimate Warrior, Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan, Mark. Okay, I'm old school. So the 10th anniversary of WrestleMania, we had Macho there arguably not used the best. It was his final WWF televised match against Crush. We don't have Hulk Hogan. We don't have the Ultimate Warrior. We've got some new stars. This show just kind of fell flat for me. But, the two things we do have going are we have this Owen Bret 20-minute opening match that is a classic. There's a reason we're covering it. And then obviously we have the Razor Diesel ladder match, which was, I didn't remember that was the second to last match on the show. So Bret Yoko, they've done that match before. Bret's already wrestled once. Yoko's already wrestled once, and they had to follow Razor Diesel. So anyways, that's it with the show. And again, we've talked about the show before. Jeff, this in a lot of ways was really like a 14-month, 15-month build, because it starts with Yokozuna winning the Royal Rumble. Yep. Then he goes to WrestleMania 9. He wins the title, but then he loses the title to Hulk Hogan. Then he gets the title back at King of the Ring. So now we're, kind of getting to a rematch, but there's all kinds of other stuff happening. So plus you have the whole Hart thing. So there's just a lot of shit going on that gets us to WrestleMania 10. So walk through all of this for us.
Yeah. So like you said, we're gonna go back to WrestleMania 9 on this one too, and kind of start. It's gonna be our jumping point, but we're bouncing around a little bit here. So Bret had actually been feuding for most of 1993 with Jerry the King Lawler, but then going into this WrestleMania 9, April 1993, like you said, you had Bret. Or Yokozuna beating Bret, but then Hulk Hogan defeating Yokozuna immediately. It was a mess. But, we kind of have that going on. But you had Bret, though, getting a rematch with who at the time was the WWF champ again, Yokozuna. It was a November 20th episode, 1993 of WWF Superstars. So pretty much it looked like Bret had this one locked in. He actually had Yokozuna in the sharpshooter. Owen was coming out to the ring at the time, looked like to congratulate his brother, but the ref kind of stopped Bret stopped Owen because he really wasn't sure what he was up to. And then that allowed Mr. Fuji to assault Bret when he had his back turned. And so you then had Owen getting involved in the match himself, which gave Yokozuna the win because of disqualification. Now, there was a non-televised, but part of the feud, and it is acknowledged. It was November 22nd. It was a Monday Night Raw, actually. Hart challenging Yokozuna for the championship and failing to retain it once again because of involvement from Owen. And so it was a big week for these types of things happening. So really, this whole thing kind of, spawned for, the end of 1993, and really, the two disagreeing it was really the wheels in motion for all of 1994. And so you had it Survivor Series, this 1993, you had the Harts. So you had Bret, Owen, Bruce, and Keith taking on Shawn Michaels, who was replacing Jerry Lawler. And we've talked about this one before, and his Knights, which different story for a different time, but that, yes. We had that match. That's what we will eventually cover that one. But, and again, just kind of weird how that one, it played out, but it was, the blue knight, the red knight, the black knight, literally, I say, quote, knights. But again, it kind of playing off the Lawler feud as well, too. Like that was part of that. So, but with this one, you had the Harts winning the match, and all of the quote brothers surviving except for Owen. And so he was eliminated. It was actually a roll up by Shawn Michaels after he had knocked Bret off of the apron. Owen not happy about the elimination. He blamed Bret for that. And this is where you start to get into the verbal war at this point of him blaming Bret for everything, that it was holding him back, that, he was the reason that he wasn't as successful as he was, which kind of mimicking real life a little bit here too. Like Bret was the bigger name. So, from that perspective, it made sense, and kind of getting into that. So throughout all this though, Owen kept demanding a one-on-one match with Bret, and Bret just kept refusing. Like he would not have the match. It wasn't going to be a thing. And so at the end of 1993, how it played out was that it was actually part of the storyline that, over the Christmas holiday, they reunited, they settled their rivalry. Bret was actually voted the superstar of the year for 1993. It was the greatest wrestler by PWI of that year. So Bret, again, having a huge year, but they, based on the storyline, they had said, though, they had, really squashed it. And so, but of course, wrestling gonna wrestle. And 1994 Royal Rumble, one of the first events there that January, you had the two of them, Bret and Owen, reuniting to take on the Quebecers for the WWF Tag Team Championship. But there was actually a referee stoppage because Bret was considered unable to compete because of an injury that, kayfabe injury, but an injury that he had sustained during the match. And so because of this, Owen, again, upset, got in it, Bret's face, said he cost him another title opportunity, and he attacked the injured knee of Bret, which, again, reset the feud. We're right back to where we were. Like, if Santa and the holidays can't fix these things, like, what can, And so we're dealing with that. We're kind of getting into that. So, Bret, though, managed to win the 1994 Royal Rumble, but there was, of course, some controversy and this is why you had the matches you had at WrestleMania. And I had forgotten exactly, because we didn't really talk about Lex Luger at all when we talked, but you had Hart and Luger were the final two participants, and they were eliminated at the same time. And so they were, of course, the co-winners of the 1994 Royal Rumble, which then gave them the shot, whoever had the title at WrestleMania. Now, I had forgotten how this kind of played out, that Luger actually won the opportunity to face Yokozuna first, which is why he had that match. But Bret had to wrestle Owen in order to get his title shot. And so, a lot of layers on this one, at least in regards to Bret and what he was dealing with. But at its core, Owen was just pissed at Bret. That's what it really boiled down to. That's why we got this match and how we got to this point. There was Bret being busy and Bret being Bret and dealing with, Yokozuna and Lex and the Rumble and all this other stuff. That's really kind of sidebar to some of this other stuff with Owen just hated Bret. He thought he was holding him back. He was tired of it. And he was ready to have a match. And so that's where we get, and the two of them opening up this card for us at WrestleMania 10. So, Tom, thoughts? And we got a lot to cover after, too. But yeah.
We got a lot to cover after. Jeff, some of these promos and the vignettes and the way they built it up, I still remember them. And it's just crazy. I mean, you're talking almost 30 years ago. And it's not like go back and watch it all the time. I just remember them. What I love about this is, this starts in November. Then we get to January, okay, Royal Rumble tag match. Then WrestleMania's in March, okay? So we're telling this story in a slow, methodical way, but it's building and it's building and it's building. And you go from baby brother, baby face, good guy, mid-card Owen Hart to legitimate heel that you are taking seriously as a top-tier main event talent. And they did that through excellent storytelling and letting it build over, a 5-6 month period. So I'm really excited to see this. And again, my big thing, Jeff, is does the match hold the test of time?
Yeah,
and I don't know.
And this is one where I know the finish. I know at least who's going to win this one, but I don't know how we got there. And reading some of the reviews and things like that, this is, I kind of picked up on some, but I have not watched this actual match in forever. And so I'm excited to kind of check this out, kind of see what happens here, because I remember bits and pieces and the kind of images and things like that, but the match itself, this is pretty much a first time watching for me. So I'm excited.
I am too. So here's the deal. For those that want to watch along with us, we are at the 13-minute mark of WrestleMania 10. Opening match, 13-minute mark, WrestleMania 10. Bret Hart's getting through the ropes, ready to get this one started. So, Jeff, are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. It's time for the payoff.
Oh, it's time for the payoff.
Just crazy, man. Brother versus brother. Do you think when these guys were in Calgary, they would have ever thought that they'd be, in a kind of semi-main event spot of WrestleMania 10 inside Madison Square Garden of all places?
In the dungeon. Yeah, no, you just wouldn't. Absolutely. So, building this up, Earl keeping them separated here. We're kind of waiting on the belt and things like that, explaining the rules, of course, as you do in every wrestling match. Like, getting ready to go. Let's ring
Hot
it.
Crowd.
Here we go. Yep. Big
MSG.
Crowd, Madison Square Garden. Yep. Absolutely.
Owen's got still like the Hart, things on. So he's got his own, version of the Hart tights and the black and the pink.
Both guys. Yep.
But I think, Bret a little bit more pink, Owen a little more black is a subtle, heel. So good stuff, dude. Good stuff.
So here we go. We're starting right out of the gate. We're getting technical. There's a kip up from Owen. Going to play into the crowd a little bit here. Being the heel, it's good stuff. Go ahead.
Any thoughts on WrestleMania 10 in general? You get this Bret Owen match because Yoko and Luger are going to wrestle. That ends in a DQ. Then you get Yoko Bret in the main event. I mean, would you have booked this any differently? Is there anything that seems odd? What do you 2020 hindsight? How do you view this show?
It's tough for me because I feel like so much of this show was built around Bret, like with like a Razor Shawn match that it shouldn't have been as good as, or was better than anybody expected and shouldn't have been as good as it was. And so, and I feel in a lot of ways overshadowing then kind of what happened with Yoko, Zuna and Lex and really, and Bret and Yoko as well too. And so I don't know. I don't think because the talent that you were working with the time and who they had on the card, I don't think there was a way to fix it necessarily. I feel like if we were to sit and watch this whole show after knowing how, we're talking about this match, we know, so we're going to get at least a decent match here. That it almost the expectation, it set the bar too high because then you start getting some of these other matches and it just couldn't live up to what this match was about to be, because the match after this one, kind of going back, was Bam Bam Bigelow and Luna defeating Doink and Dink. And so that's just what, that's really what it boils down to. And almost in this match right now, I say it's a slow start, but I actually would expect this from a Bret Hart match. I don't expect him to come out with massive offense. You've got a lot of the holds, you got a lot of the submission setups and things like that. You got Owen being a little bit faster, but again, they got wrist lock right now. I think that given if you're working within the same parameter, there's no way to fix this card to make it better. Because it's what it was. Men on a mission against the Quebecer. I don't know how you fix it. I don't think there is a way. How about you?
Yeah, I guess if you would have known this match was going to be what it was, I guess you can't make it the main event unless Bret walks in as champion. You wouldn't have hot-shotted the title on Owen. It just felt confusing. They were still trying to screw around with this whole thing of, making Lex Luger a big star, which just didn't work. But then they had the screw job kind of DQ finish. I actually went back recently and watched that Yoko Lex Luger match. Don't ask me why. I have no idea.
I was like, maybe I should go back and watch this whole thing
sucked. It sucked. And what I didn't remember is that basically it was a DQ finish because Luger screwed with Mr. Perfect, the ref.
Special ref, yep.
Yeah. Man, so these guys are just hot right now. Owen.
We're getting cooking now at this point, as I like to say. Yeah, the stew's starting to come to, we're simmering. And so, flipping Owen and all the fans. And this is one, I think you and me, it's one of our more favorite setups with the short ramp. Looking the camera looking up the ramp, the hard cam. Just a cool setup.
One more thing I'll just say about WrestleMania 10. It's just this just didn't feel big enough. I mean, you think of WrestleManias 1 through 10 ideally WrestleMania 10's your biggest one, right? I mean, it just has to be. So it's like, if I'm going to rebook this thing, and I know it's not realistic, and I know he wasn't in the company, but it's, I want Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart maybe as my main event.
Yeah.
Or Hulk Hogan and Yokozuna. I mean, maybe Bret Hart, and I'm sorry, Bret Hart and Hogan and Bret Hart goes over. How do you better use the Macho Man? This show for me lacked it being big enough. It just wasn't a big enough show. But anyways, that's enough.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And I think, again, you were constricted by who you were trying to put over at the time, and like who, was in the company. It was just a little different. So, and so I said this too, and you and I, we'll have to go back and do some research on this one, but in our, wrestling knowledge is, limited maybe in this area, but like, was this the best like opening match in a Mania to this point? Like, is this where it kind of started?
Well, by far. And I think what this match did is it made you think, wait, you can steal the show or put on a classic even in the first match. And obviously, as time has gone on, we've had ladder matches and Money in the Bank matches that have opened shows. AJ Styles and Shane McMahon was a really strong opener that one year. You've had championship matches. I remember Edge and Alberto Del Rio. They've Brock Lesnar was in the opening match. So they've, I think what they've really shifted, and I've heard it talked about in interviews, is really looking at Mania as being, hey, we might have 3 or 4 main events and each hour is going to be one. So in those years where you had 5 different hours of WrestleMania, it was, let's go with a great opener. Let's, have the 3-hour and the 4-hour and the 5-hour main event, right? So you'd hit it and then you try to break things up in between, which that's kind of the cadence they fell on, versus saying, hey, our 4 biggest matches are going to be our final 4.
Well, it's weird too, because I was looking back, so WrestleMania 9, the opening match was Tatanka and Shawn Michaels, which we've talked about before here on the show. WrestleMania 8, you had Shawn Michaels and Tito Santana. WrestleMania 7, shocker, it's Shawn Michaels again. The Rockers defeating Haku and the Barbarian. And then, prior to that, you had Rick Martel and Coco Beware. And so that was at 6. And then at 5, your opener, and I was just this far back as I'll go on this one here, you had Hercules defeating King Haku. So, yeah.
So I pulled out a list of, and this is from 2012. So keep in mind, this is 9 years old. This goes through WrestleMania 27. But they talked about the best opening matches ever at WrestleMania. So this match was number 1.
Shocker. Yep.
Number 2 was the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 23. Kennedy, Edge, Jeff Hardy, Booker, Orton, Matt Hardy, CM Punk, and Finlay. Number 3 was WrestleMania 25's Money in the Bank ladder match. 4th was WrestleMania 21, Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. And then the 5th was the Shawn Michaels Tatanka match. And if you haven't watched that match in a while, or you didn't listen to our episode, go back in the archives. We had Tatanka on, which was really fun. And, it's funny because you can probably hear me in the interview. I was genuinely surprised at how good of a match that was. I was like, you guys are doing because again, WrestleMania 9, there wasn't a lot of good wrestling back then. And I was just like, this is a hell of a match. And the only thing that kept that match from being like literally a 4.5-star match was that they did a DQ finish because they wanted to keep the title on Shawn, but then they were still protecting Tatanka as being undefeated. So if you had given that like a really, really good finish, that could have been a 5-star match. And you may think I'm crazy for saying that, but I'm telling you, it was an awesome, awesome match.
Well, and there was too much behind the scenes politics at that point, which kind of screwed over Tatanka. But, absolutely. That's one way. And that's an interesting list. I know we have some of those matches on our kind of future, to eventually cover. Be it next Mania season or whatever it is, but there's some good stuff in there.
Well, and another great one that happened after that list, because I said that list was for the first 27, was the Daniel Bryan Triple H WrestleMania 30 match.
Yes, yeah.
So remember,
absolutely.
that started off the show, which was a classic.
Well,
AJ Styles and McMahon was another really good one as well, and then Edge and Del Rio. I'm just looking at this other list.
Because when Brock opened the show too, that was a good one. And I actually had the thought the other day. I was like, you know what, I miss Brock. I have one of my wrestling shirts is the Eat, Sleep, Conquer, Repeat, and I had it on. It was actually the woman in cutting my deli meat asked me, she's like, "What does your shirt mean?" And I kind of tell her and things like that. And so, but Brock, I think it's time for Brock to come back. I'm not going to lie. Let him come back and run buckshot over somebody. So, because there was some good stuff in matches covered. So back to the ring, there hasn't been
Bret is pretty far away here.
Yep. And so missing the head dive or headbutt. Yep. Swan dive. Wow. I don't know what I'm messing up my moves today. Yeah, and so it's been, I say, kind of methodical is the best way to describe this match so far. You've had a lot of holds. We haven't really been outside of the ring at all. And both guys just kind of taken on each other through different submissions and things like that. And so Owen being a little bit more aggressive in the wrestling, but yeah.
I mean, they're just moving quick, man. Again, you didn't get a lot of matches like this back in this era,
Yeah, absolutely. No, and this, and that's a good point.
I guess part of what's lacking here is, and maybe of course knowing the outcome, it's why they did it. But I guess what's lacking here is there's no stakes to this match. I mean, I understand it's brother versus brother, but obviously there's no title. Bret Hart, no matter what, is still in the main event. So again, from a wrestling standpoint, pure psychology, well, why does Bret Hart care that much? Wouldn't he want to keep himself from being beaten up going into the main event? Again, maybe I'm being a little nitpicky here, but it's just this to me is like an exhibition. There's no stakes here, I don't, maybe, hey, if Owen wins, he gets to pick the ref in the main event. If Bret wins, he gets to pick the ref. Or I hadn't thought about this, but as I watch this, I'm like, this is one of the things that does lack in this is it's it's just like an exhibition match to start off before other things happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think absolutely your point about the stakes. Yes, these guys are feuding. They're brothers. You got Bret trying to lock up the sharpshooter and fans getting up on their feet and Owen reversing it. Yeah, it was. And part of it is because the fans in attendance, we hadn't seen anything like this before where it made sense that you were going to get a big match in the opening like this. These guys are feuding, but I think to the stakes point's absolutely true of then they come out and kind of do what they're doing right now. Now, I'm with you. And I kind of wonder, because Bret knew he was going to have another match later on this show. If they didn't have that match and the booking was a little bit different, how, if these guys would have gone harder, I don't know. Different universe, we might get the answer for something like that. But I think this is one where, just kind of the cards were stacked in a way that it was just kind of okay, it's Bret and Owen. They've been feuding and they're finally getting a match, but that's it. So yeah, I absolutely agree. I think some solid points there. Yeah. Especially when you're looking at the card too, and you're like, oh, Yokozuna, you and I've watched that icons on him and just, how he was and things like that. And then also just and then you get the ladder match as well too. And kind of the expectations for that, because nobody knows what's going to happen. This match was just kind of there at that point. If you're putting that, and you're kind of lining the matches up and what's happening. Yeah. So Owen now working over the knee, as we talked about before in the build, just kind of that kind of build up to it. I enjoy the gentleman dressed as the ref sitting ringside. That's always nice too, with the WWF letters painted on their shirts. I'm sure Earl Hebner appreciates that, mocking or mimicking them a little bit. That's always nice.
It's just a really good match.
So if you had to pick, you and I, again, I said it in the in the opening, kind of watching the dark side of the ring and kind of seeing there. And he died in 1999. At that point, who would you have liked to seen him feud with, Owen?
So 99 puts you at roughly WrestleMania. He wrestled at WrestleMania 14, I believe, and passed away before 15, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, gosh, you just look at that era and it's everyone, Jeff. Who would you have not wanted to see him wrestle?
Right.
You know, I mean, I mean, I know we saw him in Triple H, but imagine him and Triple H when they're both in their prime. You know, imagine, because this Blue Blazer character wasn't going to last forever. And so you were going to get another Owen Hart.
Yes.
And based on what he did in this era, based on what he did as the King of Hearts, he could do anything. So I don't know what Owen Hart we would have gotten, later on, but he would have been a main eventer. And you think about him versus Edge, you think about him versus Kurt Angle, you think of him versus Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, more time with Steve Austin. You think of him in The Rock. And again, some of this stuff happened, but imagine it happening, in world title feuds. And, anything could have happened, but it's hard to imagine him not being a world champion before it's all said and done.
Oh, I think like Cena is another one. Like, he probably would have feuded with, Undertaker. This was a young Randy Orton as well, too. Like, he would have been out, like Batista as well, too. Like him kind of, breaking out at this point, too. So I'm glad you brought up the championship. So Bret is one of a few, I really say Hall of Famer legends who never became, and this is only in WWE, WWF, never became the world champion in WWE, WWF. Might have been like NWA or something like that, or WCW. But can you name any of the other big name wrestlers that were never WWE world champions during their time with WWE?
Say that again.
Okay, so it was really 5 or 6 guys that never won the world championship. Owen was one of them.
That were what?
That he never won the world championship.
What's the question?
Who were the others that also didn't win it? So I'll give you one. So like Razor Ramon never won the world championship belt.
Okay.
Neither did Owen Hart. There's 4 others that didn't as well. Can you name them? This is a deep trivia question. I know.
I swear to God, I have no idea what you're asking.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So Owen Hart, and as long as he was with WWE, we apologize to fans that were explaining that. He never won the world championship strap.
Okay,
that's it. So he never won it. And then Razor Ramon never won it. He won other belts, but he never won the championship.
Well, a lot of people haven't won the championship. So what are you asking?
Oh my gosh. Never mind.
Would they win other titles though?
Some of the you're asking? Who are like the biggest names in your opinion that didn't win it, and can you think of them?
Okay, so that's what you're asking. Who are the biggest names that never won the world title?
Yes, and so because I was trying to branch here between who, because a lot of guys hadn't won it, and so I
didn't know what the hell you were asking me. So
we got it. We got there.
Biggest stars that never win. Jake the Snake, Mr. Perfect, Ted DiBiase, if you don't count Andre giving it to him.
Right. Mr. Perfect. He had Rick Rude. Again, like
did I say Rick Rude? That was one I was thinking. I don't know if I said Rick Rude. Yeah, Rick Rude.
Piper as well too.
Piper's probably the biggest.
And so, so the point I was trying to make there in a terrible way was yes, like, Owen missing out on like Owen kind of having those opportunities, things like that. And that early 2000s, it's when they were hot. Like even like Jeff Hardy as well too. Like you said, Eddie Guerrero, like Jericho as well too. Like kind of
everyone wins world titles now. So your question's great because the problem is that everyone wins a title now. You have twice as many titles and 20 new champions a year, but it's just, in this era, there were great wrestlers that just never were world champion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coco Beware was never world champion.
So you got Owen now locked in the sharpshooter. Is that the proper application to their time? I can't see
that.
it well.
That is, that's fine.
Okay, yeah, I know. We're
just
sticklers.
amazing how many guys screw it up. Yeah,
we're sticklers.
He's got. I'll tell you another finisher I always love that doesn't get talked about much. The D. Malenko used to do it. I think he called it the clover leaf, but it was the same as this, but he didn't insert the leg. So, but he held the two legs up, and then he didn't put a leg in between.
I was a big fan of the cloverleaf, and you are correct that was Dean Malenko. Because that was always a good finisher on the Nintendo 64 WCW NWO video game. Yes, so I'm right. I'm right there with you. Which I know you've been enjoying your PlayStation 5. We are long overdue for another WWE game that's actually good. I think we should get one this year if the contract says right. They know they took a year off, and so
did they take a year off because of COVID?
No, because the last one was so bad. Like it was panned and it was terrible.
1, 2, 3.
Owen
Hart wins.
So you had Bret up on Owen's shoulders and kind of trying to go for something, but Owen stops him and gets the pin 1, 2, 3. Fans don't know what the hell's going on. And Owen's selling it as, did I get it? What? Like 3? And that's it. You got like a smattering of like.
You just
fans.
flip them off. I think Owen just flipped them off.
I think you're right.
Good.
Yeah,
that's so good.
Like fans cheering, Bret in disbelief, like getting beat, but Owen losing his mind, excited. That's just good stuff.
Well, let's we'll keep rolling this for a minute, but let's get into the aftermath.
Ho! It's time for the aftermath.
All right, initial thoughts.
Methodical. I said it during the match, but I think the same way of like it was just good like mat wrestling, just good stuff all around. Yeah, absolutely. How about you?
Yeah, I like it. Didn't love it, but liked it. I mean, good match. Again, I think I'm caught up. We can talk more about this in our reviews. Jeff, I just think I'm caught up more in the fact that it's like, okay, so what? So Bret's upset, but hey, I'm going to, go win the title. And then, that's part of it too, man, with Bret in general is like, at some point, you have, if someone's going to be the guy, you got to go with him. Okay. Yeah. When Steve Austin was the guy, he beat a Hall of Famer, Shawn Michaels, in the center of the ring.
Yep.
Okay.
Gotta go out on your back.
When Shawn Michaels won, he won. Hogan won matches, right? I mean, it was just, and that's what's the thing with Bret is it's like, the Bret Hart history here is he wins the title on like basically a house show, okay? Not a big time event. All right.
Yep.
That sucked. Then we get to WrestleMania 9. The whole Yokozuna thing with him just sucked, okay? And then Hulk Hogan. And then Bret Hart doesn't get another rematch, all year because it was Hogan and Yoko, and then it was Yoko and Lex, and then you had the Survivor Series, and then we get back to Bret Hart, and what happens? Well, he loses to his brother, who was a mid-carder, and again, they did a lot to elevate him, but he was a mid-carder, and then he wins against Yokozuna at the end. But then Owen's staring him down, and you're reminded that he lost earlier in the night. So it's just I just think a lot more could have been done with Bret. Again, Hall of Famer, great. But it's like, what could we have done at WrestleMania 9 to make this guy the guy? And maybe Hogan wasn't doing a job, but how do you make Bret the guy at 9? And if you're not going to make him the guy at 9, how do you make him the guy at 10? And then you just wonder, it's like, and again, I know there's egos and personalities, but gosh, if we could have got Bret Hart to beat Hulk Hogan, what would that have done for his career? What if you would have just put Bret Hart and Randy Savage? But no, we're going to misuse Randy Savage. WrestleMania 8, Randy Savage is your world champion, place goes nuts. WrestleMania 9, you have him on commentary. WrestleMania 10, you have him in some bullshit feud with Crush. we couldn't have used Randy Savage to elevate Bret Hart during this. So instead, Bret just looks weak in all of this.
Yep.
And then WrestleMania 11, what's Bret Hart doing? Shitty match against Bob Backlund.
Yeah.
So that 3-year window, man, 2 or 3 year window, ugh. And I'm not a massive Bret Hart fan. I'm not sitting there like, oh, he's my favorite of all time and they should have used him better. I'm just saying that maybe I would have liked him better during this era and I would have respected him more and I would have been in his corner more if he would have been, pushed differently. Do you agree with that? And I think you're a bigger fan of his than I am. What do you think?
Am. Yeah, no, and I'm with you. And we're going to talk about it too, like kind of some of his matches that he had after this. Yeah, the Bob Backlund stuff, not great. I think that absolutely. And I think that, you always wonder, now that we know like the screw job and stuff like that, if Vince just never was totally sold on Bret, just kind of, he had him but he just, he let him go and things like that. And it just wasn't,
Jeff, yeah. I think you're exactly right that he wasn't sold on him. And I don't think he was sold on anyone if his name wasn't Terry Bollea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just
at the
don't
time,
think,
yeah, absolutely.
Right? I mean, I think it was just, look, I mean, there's Hulk Hogan and that's who I, trust, but no one else. Yeah. And I just, but again, why was Hulk Hogan such a star? Well, he was such a star because he was your man at WrestleMania 1, 2, and 3. He was involved in the finish at 4. He's your man at 5, 6, and 7. And then at 8, he's still in the main event, even though he's not wrestling for the world title. So, again, perception's reality. And when you have a guy losing, when you have him not having a big championship moment, when you have, him not being the center of some of these shows, getting pushed to the back burner for Lex Luger, it's tough to think of him as the guy. And, you say, oh, well, business was down. Bret didn't draw. Well, maybe he would have drawn if during this era you said at 9, we're making him the guy. And he will still be the guy a year later. And so at 9, he tackles Yokozuna. Maybe Yoko gets the title back at some point over the summer. And maybe he gets it back. And he has the Owen feud. But they screwed it up with him, man.
Yeah.
And this whole match really makes me understand that because I'd never thought of this prior.
Well, and so interesting. So we had this match and you and I talked about this kind of being like the initial, but so where did it go? Because it did kind of get interesting here. So at the end of this show though, so this obviously opened the show. At the end of the show, Owen actually came down the aisle for the final scene. He gave Bret a dirty look and it was actually how they ended the show. This feud kept going though. So this obviously, WrestleMania early in the year, we're barely into, or, halfway through March practically. This was actually an earlier Mania. But these guys kept feuding, kept kind of going at it. And so, but Hart also, I say Vince maybe wasn't sold on him, but Bret started feuding with Diesel as well too at this time. You had Jim Neidhart returning as well too. And kind of how this played out was, he helped Owen win the King of the Ring tournament. And this is where, again, you had Owen at his coronation ceremony, being, wanting to be referred to as the King of Hearts, and kind of going that way. And that same show at King of the Ring, like Hart defending the WWE or WWF championship, WWE championship against Diesel. But you had interference as well too, with, Shawn Michaels.
There you go. Okay. What have I said? So now you can't beat Diesel clean. And remember, Diesel was no one back then. I mean, he barely was a wrestler. I don't even think he'd been Intercontinental Champion yet. And now it's, we can't have him win clean over Diesel. Well, then who's this guy going to win clean over?
Yeah. Well, and so my specific notes here, because I will paint the picture here. So when Hart was winning the match, Shawn Michaels interfered on Diesel's behalf. Diesel appeared close to victory after he delivered a jackknife powerbomb, yet could not pin Hart. Neidhart interfered. Therefore, Diesel won by DQ, but Hart retained his title. Jim Neidhart left when Diesel and Michaels attacked Hart following the match. Neidhart's motivation was made clear when he helped Owen win the tournament that night so that he could receive a title shot against his brother Owen. And so, yeah, like you said, like it's got to be a DQ. It can't be a clean finish or anything like that. So with that, though, like this actually gets us into probably what was the better match between these two guys, which was SummerSlam 1994 and a steel cage match. And so it was a 5-star match from Dave Meltzer. It was voted Feud of the Year, which we're going to talk about by, PWI.
No question.
And so, that piece of it, no question. And so that's one, it is on our list. Summer's coming up. Maybe that's one of the first ones, or, we try and hit for sure. And so after that, though, there was actually a lumberjack match. This is where it gets kind of weird that Owen, won. He was announced as the champion, but then like Bret, the lumberjacks told the referee to look at the replay on the screen. And so, showing that the match had to restart, and Bret won the match. It was continued because of the interference, and it was weird, but how it played out. So then you had as well too at Survivor Series, kind of Owen costing Bret the championship. This was one of the Bob Backlund matches where he had to, the corner man had to throw the towel in the ring. Their mom was involved. It was just, again, but this, now I think you and I had an epiphany here, kind of sitting and talking about Bret and kind of how he was treated and things like that, getting this match and throwing the towel in the ring and stuff like that. Even not only Bret getting shit on, but Owen as well too, because he's involved in this, the match, not, but when they were given the stage, they put on a 5-star match. And so, then also
I'll be the first one to say that, Bret Hart took his character too seriously and he was too, concerned about certain things. But then I look at this and I'm like, dude, this guy got screwed. The Backlund stuff sucked. Bob Backlund had been retired forever. Loses his title to him. If you're going to give the title to someone, give it to Owen.
Yeah, well, and
have a trilogy. Have a trilogy then. Owen wins the first one. Bret wins the second one in the cage, right? We're going to have one final match, right? And that's in Survivor Series. And if you already did the regular match and you did the cage match, what's left? Ladder match. In that era, that was probably a realistic way to finish it.
And after Michaels and Razor kind of, did what they did, you knew what you could get. So, yeah. And who knows? Right? So, yeah. But then, again, so kind of capping, not even capping this one off, it continued, but Owen once again, and this is again, Bret getting screwed. It was Royal Rumble 95. He interviewed in the match between Bret and Diesel. And so, it just, and then it kind of feud stopped for a little bit because they had, Bret really started beating Owen pretty consistently after that, but kind of interesting how it played out. So, I got a lot of reviews and write-ups on this one, and so you should enjoy this. So Bret, number 1 that year, obviously. Owen, number 10. The match of the year was the Shawn Razor match, but this was the feud of the year. The PWI, Bret was the second most liked wrestler of this year, 1994. Owen was the... I was fucking up when I was Bret. He was the second most hated wrestler for 1994. So number 2 is all around for these guys. So you had 411 Mania described it as the best opening match in professional wrestling history. It was number 4 on IGN's top 20 matches as well, too, in WrestleMania history. And so that's not just opening matches, but just top matches, which is interesting. So, and they said it was the best opening match in pay-per-view history. Now, this is one interesting, too. I thought it was actually...
They called that the best opening match in pay-per-view history.
Yes. And
and again, at that time, probably was,
And now this is actually from Chris Jericho saying, for me, the best match on WrestleMania 10 was always Bret versus Owen. And it kicked off the show and it was hard to follow. The story was amazing. It was kind of Owen's coronation. It was a great moment. So
it's true.
So then you got Wade's PW torch right up on this one. Owen then gave a post-match interview, near perfect execution throughout the match, which had the pace, which had the pace been slightly more intense and less methodical at times, would have been even better. Overall, though, a clinic of a scientific wrestling match with a storyline and great ring psychology. 4.25 stars. Meltzer gave this one while the idea of Owen beating Bret was a surprise, but not a total surprise, the idea he'd be doing it clean in the middle was almost unfathomable, but also made it obvious that Bret was ending the show with the title belt. Although the win solidly elevated Owen to the top of the ladder on the heel side, his post-match interview showed that he's badly in need of a manager to effectively stay in the spot for any length of time, 4 3/4 stars. So you got great post-match interview, 4.5 stars, needs a manager because of the interview, 4 3/4 stars. Tom, kick us off.
Jeff?
Yeah.
So, what's interesting about this one is we're kind of covering a match that's in the middle of things. Usually we cover like the blow off. Not that we shouldn't have not covered this match, because we absolutely had to. So, gosh, I think in this one I'm gonna go 8, which means I love the build. I loved, the match, and it was a shocking finish, and it elevates Owen. So I'm like in that 7.5 to 8 range. Let's give it an 8. So it'll be fun to watch the SummerSlam match, because that is the blow off. That is supposedly the better match from, what the quote unquote experts say. So we'll see, because that one may be like a 9 or a 10, but I'm giving this one an 8. Really, really like / love, but not perfect, because some of the stuff that I've said, there were no stakes. It kind of just felt like an exhibition. Bret's kind of getting jerked around at this point, but I did love the build, and I love everything that happened afterwards and the stare down at the end. What about you?
Yeah, I'm at an 8 too, actually. And I almost gave it actually a little lower, but I was like, nah, it's not fair to the match, because the match was actually really good. I think that this is one where, same thing. You and I, it's 2021. We know what's to come. And so that's part of why I've kind of hesitant to go any higher, because we know that there's a better match in the pipeline, at least. Like we said, like the write-ups, you and I might even disagree with that. It wouldn't be the first time. And so that, at least the feud continued. And I'm with you. While it feels early in the feud, I think it feels early in the feud because this was their first match. It doesn't mean they weren't feuding. It doesn't mean that there weren't, kind of things happening, but this being that match as it was, like, there was still too much to come for me to give any higher of a score on this one. But I'm right there with you, though. I agree. It's hard to not, I want to give it a higher score and I can't. So, but that's it. 8's all around. All right.
Okay.
Tom, final thoughts?
Really enjoyed it, but I'm sad. Do you know why I'm sad?
Why are you sad?
Because this is the end of our WrestleMania matches for this year.
Oh, man. I didn't want to think about it. So I thought you were sad because you forgot the payoff code at manscaped.com, which is just payoff. And so 20% off free shipping. But I think, yes, more sad.
20% off anything?
20%, the whole store, like
wow.
Whatever you want, like the lawnmower, like the weed whacker, the cleanser, whatever you're looking for, anything, you just pay off, put in that promo code spot when you got everything in the cart. It's worth it.
And here's as we wrap up the show, here's what I want to challenge everyone to do. And I want you to look below the waist and really think, is this the best I can do, or is there room for improvement? And if you think there's room for improvement, go check out manscaped.com, use payoff code, discount code, get 20% off everything. And the significant other in your life is going to be happy. You're going to feel better. You're going to run faster. You're going to swim faster. Your sex life is going to improve. I see no downside. Affordable products that are very well engineered.
Here's what I want to put out there too. If any of our fans out there, like they can show us that they ordered, show us that code, show us the receipt, stuff like that. We will put some koozies in the mail for you, free of charge. So not only do you get 20% off, not only do you get free shipping, we're going to send you some payoff koozies. We're going to send you a handful. You can share them with your friends. So that's an added bonus for this last week in April, because I feel bad about WrestleMania season being over. I want to give something back to our fans. So if you order something, we will send you something as well too from the payoff.
And put that on our social media as well. Let them know that if you use the payoff code and you show us your order, we don't need to see the order number or your private information, but you show us that, we'll send you koozies in the mail. So we'll let you know that on social media. We're at Payoff Pod. And just to clarify this, we want proof that you purchased the product using the payoff code.
Yep.
We don't want proof that you use the products.
Yes, that is a very good, we are not that type of show.
We are not asking for dick pics.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Just to clarify. Never thought I'd have to do that on a podcast, but I think it's important that we note that.
I feel like we should be playing Boys to Men. We're at the end of the road. This is very upsetting. But that's okay. We've got big things coming. Even we don't know. We're recording this. We have no idea what next week's episode is going to be, but that's what makes this fun. So let us know what you want to hear. That's the other important thing too. So Tom, let's send him home happy though. Yep. There it is. Yep. I'm glad Tom pulled it up for me. So Tom, let's send them home with a smile on their face. What do you got, buddy?
We're at the end of the road of a wonderful WrestleMania season. We so appreciate you listening to The Payoff. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your April. We hope you go to manscaped.com and use code PAYOFF to get 20% off everything. Plus, you'll get free shipping. And make sure to follow us at Payoff Pod on all social media. And as always, thank you for joining us on an all-new episode of The Payoff.